This call is now being recorded. Perfect. So welcome, everyone. Today, we are exploring the unique convergence of neurotechnology with healthcare and innovation. In our conversation, we will dive deep into how neurotechnology is embracing venture capital and how cutting-edge technology is being leveraged to target unmet clinical needs. We will also discuss how neurotechnology investing takes a village, one that begins through relationships and shared vision. Today, I'm joined by Varun Turlapati, Managing Director of Chaanakya Capital, Roger Hagen, Venture Partner at Chaanakya Capital, and Dr. Tarpan Patel, a cardiologist turned healthcare consultant and venture partner at Chaanakya Capital. So let's start right at the beginning. Varun, tell us a little bit more about your Roblox days and how did your relationship with Roger take off?
Yeah, so prior to launching our fund, and maybe a quick plug here on the fund itself. So we are an early stage neurotech focused venture capital firm. We invest in early stage companies, which typically tend to be pre-seed all the way through Series A, more a function of valuation and progress in terms of science and technology and regulatory. And that, as we speak, we already have 4 portfolio companies in a matter of 10 to 11 months. So that's solid progress. We've been fundraising and deploying. So we've truly been keeping this a very startup mentality VC fund. So we are not waiting to develop something in secret and then one fine day launch and then be, flustered by the number of deals in front of us, but we're doing this on the go. And so to that extent, I see myself more as a founder of a VC fund or CEO of a VC fund rather than something special or different. Now, in the few years immediately prior to launching this, I was at Roblox, one of the earlier engineers. I really enjoyed my stint at Roblox, working at a couple of different teams, different organizations. I worked in the infrastructure side of things, which upkeeps the systems and makes sure that the systems are reliable so that users, especially kids, can play games uninterrupted, or not just play games uninterrupted, but have the services uninterrupted. So it could be, hey, I'm designing a new avatar and I need this studio that needs to work, and then suddenly if there's an error and the systems are crashing, they'll have a bad experience in doing so, and maybe they'll not have their avatar developed, and there's some interruption and so on. So similar game developers and so on. So the infrastructure was pretty critical, and that's where Roger and we worked together on a few projects. And I use the word projects in a very broad way. Often it was just my picking his brains on like, how does this work? And then other times he would just consult me on like, hey, we need to be doing this. What do you think? Can you do this? Can you help out? So it was pretty a tag team approach. Like I was saying, just immediately prior to this meeting, a lot of it was also fueled by beer and pizza and things like that we would just go and have fun over. So that was that. And of course, the whole origin of the VC firm in my head was since 2015. I've been wanting to be in the VC space. I was just not ready, neither technologically nor in terms of venture savviness. Even now, I don't feel ready, but I was ready enough to start, ably supported by, again, support systems of which Dr. Tarpan Patel and Roger are part, and then you also too. I'll just pause there.
Yeah, so Roger, would you like to add to your side of things?
Okay. Yeah. You mean from the origin story of? Okay. So with Varun, yes, we met at Roblox. Again, we were on the both he and I were on the infrastructure group. Apologies, I have a rambunctious cat who is trying to visit. And what's it? Varun was a really, really great person that I could work with on various interesting aspects of the infrastructure. Roblox is a incredibly complex machine, and we were working on various aspects of that. And in one case was container-based storage, which actually gets very, very difficult. And Varun had an incredibly great way to analyze, debug, and work on those systems. I was incorporating that into cloud infrastructure at the time. So, we worked together closely, and it did lead to much beer. And just, talking about things in general. And so that was a really great start to that relationship. I could see how Varun thought or analyzed problems, and I knew that he has an incredibly insightful and analytical mind that now has found application in a subject which has been very, very interesting, which was the venture fund. He approached me a few years later, and I conversed a bit. He told me about what he was doing on with a neurotech fund, and I was like, "What's that?" And then I led into looking into what that was. And after talking a bit, we met over, beer, and went into it even more. So let's see. I think that's probably brings us up to where I started coming in as a investor interested in and an investor in this subject, which is fascinating. That stuff we can go. I believe we'll go into later.
Mm-hmm.
Brings us up to now, basically.
Yeah, no, that's super.
By the way, I want to quickly add. Do you know what the name of the team that Roger was managing was called? C3PO.
Cloud third-party operations.
Yeah.
Nice.
It legit expanded into something, but they I'm pretty sure Roger made it reverse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was saying something else. I just was like, no, we're doing something fun with it.
I want to make something that fits to C3PO, and then made it happen. So yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty insightful. I wanted to actually dig a bit more. So, I mean, yeah, you guys are doing this kind of work, and suddenly neurotechnology pops up. And Varun, I want to know, what did you see in this space, and why did you dive into neurotechnology per se?
Yeah, for me, I recently did a reverse pitch, by the way, and I'm going to borrow from that because it was my own pitch anyway. We talk about what the next frontier is in space exploration, deep space mining. It used to be cancer or something, and we still, quantum computing, AI, all of these things have been doing the round. To me, I really thought about it, and ironically, the next biggest frontier is well within us, which is the brain. Is my opinion, is what I feel. We don't know enough about our brain. We don't know enough about the system that we have developed. Roger was just talking about how Roblox is a complex system. When there is a crash somewhere, often it takes incredible number of person hours to get to the root of the problem, to say that is what caused this, is what caused that, is what caused this, and so on and so forth, right? Much like even complex systems like aircrafts, for example, right? Like there are a lot of things that lead up to this one failure, and it's really hard to get to it. And therefore, over a period of time, we have set up these systems and protocols, as well as these design patterns, where we know we use those to make life easy in certain aspects, to get to exactly the root cause of a problem, or to amplify the ability in certain other case, right? And when you look back, so my fund advisor, who is my wife now, but at that time she was my girlfriend. She was doing her postdoctoral research work at Stanford in the neurosurgery department, and that for me was like, wow, I have this one person whom I can ask all sorts of questions every single time and see how much she has to answer, right? Just start with absolutely silly and trivial, even a noob should know this, and I would ask her shamelessly. That's the one thing that I really like to do, which is ask questions and not have any shame about it. And so I found an ally or a good teacher in her to actually help explain certain things, right? And then the way I would understand my learning pattern is that I really want to simplify first to get the essence, or find analogies, find examples, and then that helps me understand the core and then expand more and more into the learning. So she helped with that. So I used to ask her questions specifically tailored to that approach, and she would tell me. And then guess what? The human system is exactly how software engineers have been building, or computer scientists have been building these different design patterns. Things like, if you want to go like in computers, there's memory cleanup, memory reclaim, right? So you have these memory that has been allocated and then it's not being freed up, and so now you get into a clog, so you want to kind of defragment and clean up and so on. How does that happen, right? You put some markers, you come back in iterations and then keep cleaning it up. And the body has certain such systems too, like T cells flushing out foreign particles. So they put some markers first, and then something else comes in, like a T cell, and looks for those markers, and only those with markers are cleaned out. So it's amazing how when you look at it, and I've trivialized some of these examples, but there's a lot of analogies. So for me, it's like, wow. So biology actually is engineering. And so it shattered this thing that biology is something that I did not like, or medical science is something that I did not absolutely like. Tarpan, sorry for that. I knew I did not want to be a doctor since the age of 2.5, because I said, hey, if I cannot see myself being poked, I will not poke anybody. And that was, for me, doctors are injectors or whatever, pokers of injection or something. So it then shattered that thing for me, the barrier, and I got more and more into understanding how the brain works, and it just kept fueling it. Now, when we launched the fund, or when we were about to launch and we were trying to figure out what it is we wanted to do, there were three things we wanted to do: healthcare broadly, education, and climate. Also, because these three areas make a huge impact, especially to those who can least afford it, right? So we wanted to do something that levels the playing field. Healthcare was kind of, it's universal. From the day you're born, there is something or the other that you need in healthcare. Everybody is aging from the moment they're born, come to think of it. And so then we said, okay, maybe healthcare is what we should focus on. And then in a moment of epiphany, it was like, hey, neuro. Nobody's actually targeting neuro. And neuro is the way we are trying to do things that were not done before, right? Including things like, hey, can this be done without pharma drugs, perhaps? Or can some diagnosis of condition be done now because of new technology that's available that can tap into the nervous system, right? And so then that was just quick enough for us. Like, yeah, I think we have the subject matter expertise, and then we can build on it. So that's neurotech. That's why neurotech.
Mm-hmm. Oh, super interesting. And Roger, what was your motivation for backing neurotech as a field? Of course, you backed Varun, but what did you think about neurotech?
Well, my introduction was from Varun and actually Joanna. They actually our first in-person meeting was again, anyway, I won't go into that anymore. But I met them both at Fieldworks, and they went into what actually they were working on, what they're investigating. And one of the things about me is I've been a serial startup person, and usually it has been in the service of like going, okay, what's a cool idea that'll actually benefit people? It's that old chestnut of make the world a better place. And when they started talking about what they were looking at, which was how do we use this or find technology that will work in the medical field, specifically neurotech, and how it would with all these new trends, these new companies investing in various methods of helping people. They brought up the example of, for instance, psionic, I believe was the first thing that they said, here's something that we're looking at. And it was like, that physically helps people as opposed to just, the software stuff I've done before. I've done like startups that did in the late 90s, multimodal interface design, so that rather than just having a computer screen, you could actually use speech recognition and text to speech to interact with a phone. This is way before the Apple stuff. This is 1999, and so was like going, okay, well that could help people, but this actually has something that has physical quote unquote physical impact. And went further into it, and how they were looking at various technologies. It was something that could really help people. I know that sounds almost like a pat answer, but it's something where it brought the physicality of it really home about how we can be using and finding people that are developing technology which works on brain, on ability, on managing things as we age, which I'm encountering all the time, and so on and so forth.
No, that's super true, because like it makes it pretty tangible in the sense of, oh, it's just not a concept. Like when you say physical, like, yeah, I can see that, at least, especially with the example of psionic, it's pretty physically evident as well. So that's really interesting. Shifting focus now to Dr. Patel. How did you meet Varun, and what made you come on, like, as a clinician, but also as a limited partner in the fund?
So I met Varun in August of 25, so about 7 months ago, and he reached out to me describing his fund and if I wanted to learn more. And first off, I was attracted by the title of his fund, Chaanakya Capital. I thought that was pretty unique in terms of selecting that as a title, number one. Number two, in my initial conversation with Varun, what I could see right away was his passion. He spoke so intelligently about anything and everything, whether we're talking about neurotech, or we're talking about the fund, or we're talking about biology, or disease processes, or FDA approvals. And so I was sort of just blown away in our first 20-minute conversation. And for me as a clinician, being in the trenches, practicing cardiology day in and day out, I wanted to dabble into something that was more affecting a larger population, or being part of something that could really change a larger population than what I do in my daily life. And so for me, once I could see that Varun had like a clear plan and a passion, I just felt that, he could tackle any problem. So if there were any roadblocks to come, or anything that would fall apart, which, happens in anyone's life, I know that this person in front of me is a problem solver. And so he's the one, if someone can find a solution, it's going to be him.
That's super interesting. Both of you share that similar opinion there, and it's so evident. It's coming out about like how this problem solving aspect is so central to investing, and it's like you can learn it anywhere. You don't have to like be an investor to learn it, and that is pretty insightful.
I think one thing that I like from hearing from Tarpan, what he just said, is also this, right? He just made it a little more explicit. Like, sometimes you kind of go at it and you don't hear this enough. For me, even now, I'm so happy to hear exactly Tarpan's articulation. By the way, I'm so sorry. It is Dr. Patel, but for me, he's become Tarpan. It's just from our interactions, it's just very easy, and I find him so approachable that it's just like somebody that I ideate with. And so, you want to problem solve, and you want to understand everybody that you're taking along with you. You want them to understand that things may not all be as rosy as we thought it would be, but we want to have that resilience. And I think that is very important, right? Versus, the plan checks out. This is brilliant plan, and let's do it. But there's also this part where if it does fall apart, we want to make sure that, and this is a story that we're looking for from founders, by the way, right? As VCs ourselves, when we do the diligence, we want to understand, like, yeah, sure, you want to go FDA class 2. What happens if it's not approved, and what do you do, and so on. We want to hear those. We want to make sure that they have it. They've got it, rather, right? They've got the situation in control, and even if things fall apart, they are able to navigate this. So it was nice to hear from Tarpan that validation. Thank you.
Mhm. So for any investors, aspiring investors that are watching, like, how has your journey with Chaanakya Capital shaped your opinion on investing in venture capital? And both of you feel free to like go off one after the other.
Okay. Let's see. Well, this was my first real introduction to investing. So it was really a great introduction because Varun and Joanna were able to elucidate, what is involved, how things would work out. That for instance, one thing that Varun does is he's been giving out little chestnuts of what's interesting in investing. Like what's it, dilution strategies and various other things that I had fairly peripheral knowledge of. I was knowledgeable in various things that have to do with like a startup and raising things, but that was an interior view. Varun and the experience with Chaanakya has been more like, how does that work from the people that are actually doing the investing, and that has been very, very illustrative, like of strategies, how things were analyzed from the investor point of view, as opposed to, I participated in stuff like, okay, how do we go and get us safe round from, from investors? This is the other way around, and has been one of those things that has been great to learn and to go, okay, this makes sense. This is how we're going to be managing, or Varun and Joanna managing this fund, how they're going to investigate new companies to look at. And then the education of the other limited partners through like going, okay, we're going to have a demo or presentation by a prospective company, and so that part again has also been really, really great for me, just because I'm seeing it from the other end of me going out to try to find funding, as to, oh, we're looking for who to fund, and that has been a great, actually a journey that has been very good for me personally.
Dr. Patel?
I would always like to say that if you are clear in your vision and you have conviction, then you should be able to explain it to like a 5-year-old kid, right? And I feel that Varun has that ability. And so he has that ability to respect your intelligence, but at the same time, break down the complexities in a way where you can digest them, understand them, and can see where this is leading towards. And so, and the fact that if he can do that for me, then I can already see then what his interaction must be like with other startups and the companies that are pitching to him. I can just imagine the way he's able to sort of dissect and help them navigate their own, issues themselves. So that to me was a very another unique morsel for someone who is, naive to being part of the VC world. For me, that was a very pleasant experience.
That's interesting that everyone is kind of just beginning this journey into venture. So that leads me to my next question to Varun. So as a first-time manager, or And to you guys as first-time LPs, like, what is something that you wish you knew before you started on this journey?
Let's see. Do we? Yeah, I mean, I can start. I was just wondering if maybe Tarpan can go first on this one.
Sure.
Yeah, anyone.
Yeah.
So let me see. So from my perspective as a first-time fund manager, look, I've been told that fundraising is going to be hard. I've been told that the fund size may be a little too small, especially for the sector of choice. And I've been told a whole bunch of things. So at a high level, not much of it has remained a surprise. What nobody has told me is how volatile the external factors could be, the macroeconomics, right? Tariffs, for example, and how they impact the portfolio companies, right? They do, right?
Yeah.
Super hard. And these are companies that are building some genuine tech, and they often want to build the cream of the cream technology while perhaps outsourcing some of the repeatable tasks elsewhere so that we maintain that kind of significant lead technologically. Now that's becoming harder. So now they have to also build their own ladder and then scale it. So this is not something anybody told me. It is not something anybody could have, I guess. But I think it goes back to the unpredictability of this entire space as we see, where something could be completely upended. Fortunately, for most of my earlier investors, not many of them came in with the idea of what is the worst case scenario. Not many. I don't even recall Dr. Patel asking me, hey, is this going to be like a sure shot thing? Nobody comes in with that. Like, so that's something I'm really grateful for, right? Nobody has come in and said, hey, how do you guarantee my principal or something? But even so, when I had to make it explicit, and I said, "Look, this is still a risky investment. This is risky as an asset class, right? We're doing it for X, Y, and Z reasons. So mission aligned capital, and of course, we want to make money. But when we want to make that money, we don't go in with defensiveness. We go opportunistically. We say, what is that next big moonshot that we can uh, we can we can back, so that that technology is available to almost the entire world, and then therefore we also get returns and great. So you don't go at it with like, oh, what happens if I put this money and lose it, right? So that's good, right? That is something that I was expecting. That's also something that I thought people would ask me, but that was not the case, fortunately for me. But even so, some of these conversations were easy. Now, some things that I was told and some things that still remain, fundraising still is hard, particularly for emerging first-time managers like me. And the reason is we are often uh, bound by a lot of restrictive laws. Actually, every VC for that matter, right? Unless their fund is 506c, accredited fund, you cannot openly talk about the fund, which was the biggest hurdle for me. So then I had to go through connections and their connections and so on. So the biggest hurdle for me was, well, for example, I could say, oh, I got to Roger quickly enough. Then I would explain, and Roger said, okay, well, I'll get on board. And then say, okay, great, Roger. Now here's the challenge. I cannot just go out to the street and say, here's the fund, here's, back it, and here's what we're doing. So we need to see if you can help us get in front of more people. Can you? Roger, okay. And this is not Roger. I'm just using Roger's name, by the way, right? Just to be very, very clear. And Roger will like, okay, well, yeah, but I don't know. I'm not confident enough about VC to talk about this. No, Roger, don't worry about your being confident or not. Just let me talk, and then you just be next to me. And often these things become very operationally burdensome, and that's not something that people understand very well going into fundraise. Fundraise is difficult is a very blanket statement. These are the things that make it really hard. And then how do the bigger funds get by? Because they already had the brand. So it's like, hey, for example, Stanford already has a brand, so it'll tend to attract a lot of applicants anyway. And from that, you select the cream, what seems to be the cream, and then it's kind of self-fulfilling, right? That is not something that I as a first-time fund manager have the advantage of. Right? So I really had to laser focus on the technicalities, and being able to boil it down to like, hey, if this, then that, if not, then this, and so on. understanding the space on a minute by minute basis, every minute. So yesterday I learned something new. Today I have to learn something new from yesterday, and then so on and so forth. So I have to keep that fuel going to make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can. Um, like I said, the bigger funds often they already have these folks that they can mail out to. Now I know Roger, I know Tarpan, I know a bunch of other folks. So next time I'm doing something, it doesn't even have to be venture space. The first few people I think about would be these folks. And like, hey, Tarpan, what do you think of this new idea? Or hey, Roger, what do you think? Right. So that takes time to build. Even more so for somebody who, until not so long ago, was actually clanking away at the keyboard writing code. So these are the nuances of the hard difficulty. Otherwise, not much was a big surprise, right? Concept.
Sorry, I'm just gonna switch off my video and switch it on again. For some reason, my jacket seems to be flickering in the video, and I think something is wrong with the camera.
That's a very party-like tone.
Strobe light.
Like that.
Hopefully, okay. Well, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if we can fix it in post, but okay, let's just continue.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. So then over to the LPs. What was something that you find surprising being a limited partner, and learning about venture investing and your understanding of the journey?
Okay, let's see. For surprising, it's just finding all the intricacies. I will say that when I wasn't as quick with Varun as he was implying. It took like 2 or 3 months while we were talking about the fund, and in relation to that, I went and checked with my financial advisors on what the viabilities, how they were structured, and just getting thumbs up, so that it was like, okay, this was something that is both sounds intellectually and ethically interesting, and that I would be, quote unquote, placing a bet, but a considered and intelligent bet. So that's it was something that I think I put my money where my thoughts were and my mouth was. But it took a few months, and then the thing is that some of that was Varun telling me about how these things work. It's like how it's a beginning. What was the thing that found interesting was the going to the VC, not VC school, VC
lab.
What? Yeah. Yes.
VC
And
lab.
that that there's a methodology that you can actually start learning the ropes of what is involved with managing a fund, raising and managing a fund. So I was actually surprised with that. I thought everybody just was like, okay, here I have a bucket of money. I'm going to go start figuring out how this stuff works. And everything was through connections and things like that. Some of it is, of course, through connections, but some of it is actually, here are methods that have worked before. Here's how you set things up financially. And it was stuff that I've been learning a little bit about peripherally as I've been an LP on this fund.
Oh, yeah, super insightful. And Dr. Patel?
For me, not really too many surprises or anything I wish I knew from before, because I think Varun just does an excellent job of keeping you updated and constantly in the know. The educational pieces that he provides, and just the amount you extract from him in just a 15-minute conversation, it satisfies a lot of learning that you could do on your own in like 2 hours. So that's I think the beauty of being involved with Varun is that regardless of wherever you are in this journey of understanding, it doesn't take much for him to get you up to speed. So.
That's a really great point. So I was thinking about education, and especially when you have everyone doing this for the first time, it's so important to know exactly what you're getting into. And with that, I would like to ask Varun again. So um, what inspired you to build like a fund that was so centric on sharing knowledge, and how did you like ingrain this into like the philosophy of Chanakya Capital?
Yeah, I have to be really, really candid on this one. My experience leading up to this was not a very pleasant one, right? I mean, leading up to setting the fund or deciding to get into this was not a very pleasant one. From a from an early stage engineer, even good successful companies like Roblox, for example, uh, where I was a lot more technologically involved than in the rest of it, right? Um, I tried my best to pick brains to ask people how is it done, how do you do this, what happens if this. There were not a whole lot of resources, but far from and it felt very exclusionary, by the way. So I would go to these meetups. First of all, if I was allowed, right? Because often these meetups are very closed door kind of meetups. And so for the ones that I may have been allowed, I would just go interact and say, hey, I want to set some time and see like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. I can buy you beer, whatever, or juice, the beverage of choice. What can we sit and talk? And often in the heat of the moment, people, especially VCs, want to appear very friendly, and they say, "Oh yeah, sure. Here's my LinkedIn. Connect." Something as simple as, I would connect, and then they won't even respond, right? Or if they did on the spot, then I would say, "Hey, we chatted about this. You seemed excited. I just want to chat for about 15 minutes. That's it, no more. And virtual call is okay. Can we do that?" They will see the message, not respond. Obviously we know that they've seen the message. So it was very demoralizing, disappointing, and it kind of really uh, got me to take a hard look at I guess humanity. It went to that depth because I really was here trying to transcend into different kinds of problem solving, and I had the passion and everything to do it, and yet I felt like I was being disallowed from doing so deliberately. And those who made it sound like it was all them and their this and their that and my connections and my this and my wisdom. And I said, in some of those, when they would be on the stage speaking, I would think to myself, for somebody who's made one successful bet out of 100, gosh, that's awfully lot of overconfidence there, right? In terms of statistics, like if somebody had 99 out of 100 and they still are not sure, that's a scientist or that's a doctor. With 99% probability, they still be like, well, we still cannot say for sure, and then they'll get into the details of it. And here are these folks who only get it right one, if at all, out of 100 times, and they're the most arrogant people that you will ever meet. And I said, that's why even do that? Like, why? You can be confident without being arrogant. And that's something that I could not look past. Like, I was like, no, how is this? Like, you can know all the things you know. In fact, my mom was like, the most wisest of the folks are often the humblest of the ones. They know that they know nothing. And I was always of that school of thought. And I was like, why are these people like this? And then it almost started painting every VC in my mind as arrogant. Of course, when I started digging in, I even found very arrogant founders. So I get it that it's across the board. It's not being anecdotal. But for me, that's the part that I really had to shake off. And that jadedness is something that I had to shake off as well. But in doing so, I said, okay, well, if and when I become VC, that's the number one thing that I will not be. I may not have time to talk to every founder, and everyone will understand that. But let me be at least respectful about it. Hey, no, I'm sorry, I cannot. You are not in the thesis for us, and we cannot do this. Give them two more extra minutes. How does it hurt you? Nothing, right? And then just walk away. Great. Or if you do offer time, then try to make it. Like I do offer time sometimes, very restrictively, but when I do, I go meet them. I'm not expecting anything in return, because if I did sign up for that kind of a talk time, then I cannot show up there being annoyed that I'm on that call. So those are the first few things that I really wanted to shatter, and then along the way, this knowledge-centric thing, so Tarpan was alluding or talking about this educational material, and even Roger was talking about it, that came very organically because I really like to chew people's ears off if I know something, right? And if I may not even know 100% of anything. And there was a time in my life where I stopped trying to get to that 100%, proverbial 100%, but instead say, okay, I learned 5, but can I convey this 5 very succinctly to everybody that I know, including my grandmother, including to a 4-year-old, right? Can I challenge myself to do that? And so that is something that I've been keeping at it in different fields, not just, now I'm able to try to do that from a venture perspective, but, technology, systems and so on. So for me, that was organically just adding to what I had, which is the kind of VC that I didn't want to be, the kind of enabler that I wanted to be, and then add this knowledge, because knowledge is the best enabler at the end of the day. You provide this knowledge to folks, they feel empowered. And for a lot of people, I think they are afraid to do that because it's like, if I tell Roger and Tarpan something, now they know that and they don't need me anymore, is probably why a lot of people are not confident. For me, it's the other way. Yes, that could happen, that Roger doesn't need me anymore, but that's not the kind of need that I need too, right? It's together can we build this community where we are kind of one-upping each other and helping build something more and more advanced rather than downward spiral or just keep things stagnant. So that is why the educational portion, that's why we do newsletters pretty frequently, once in 2 weeks even, and then I try to do these explainer videos, and things like that. So that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very interesting. And yeah, it's still, so I guess now I realize a little more about when VC Lab says that we need to, democratize it or open it up to everyone. Like hearing your account makes it feel like it's still closed. Like in my head, I was like, oh, like they're launching so many funds. Like doesn't seem that exclusionary, but I guess no, in 2025 it still was, and in 2026 as well. Yeah, so a lot of work to be done there. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, but sticking with the knowledge sharing theme, I want to ask the LPs, like, what do you think about how Chaanakya is building its portfolio and its diligence strategy, and what do you think?
Building a portfolio? You mean
Portfolio
the work that?
companies.
So you're talking about the work that Varun and the team have been doing, or
Yeah. For the companies that they've invested in, the kind of decisions they've taken. What do you think about their approach to like finding these companies and like diligencing them? And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Okay. Yes. I mean, most of that comes through in the both the newsletters and the meetings that have been set up for respectively. Let's see, Psionic, Bad Science, PigPug. I believe are the 3 that were actual meetings that were set up with the LPs to go over. They'd have either the founder or a presentation built up for what they were actually doing, and in the newsletters and communications from Varun would go into the investigation by him and the team into those companies, leading to those presentations for final or continued interest in those startups. Let's see. There's looking at the financials, market prospects, the actual technology, how it applies in the neurotech space, and it at least to my mind, it's a fairly not at like got totally nitty gritty, but enough detail that we can understand as LPs the technologies, the growth prospects, the applications, that seems that they've done the due diligence into what the company is, what it's doing, where it's possibly going, how Chaanakya would actually help with these companies in advisement. For instance, there's a nice graph with Psionic where it's like when we started the participation with them, what their growth prospects were now projected versus original. That that Chaanakya is actually looks like having an actual impact. So anyway,
Yes.
that's a very quick.
So would you say Psionic was the company that truly excited you, like the first time you saw them?
It was the lead off one, and just the cool, it was pretty cool. And then for some reason the one that I thought was very interesting, just from that neurotech whatever, but the one that did the encephalopathy, I cannot pronounce that word. The intelligent shunt was just like such a wonderful way of applying technology in a way that would help, basically the kids that they were talking about, and that the dumb shunts break. Here's one that actually is intelligent and that can self-regulate, and for some reason that's really exciting. That here's something which would have a dramatic outcomes that are better than the original through application of technology. I don't know. Anyway, it's just something I want to bring up. And the presentation, again, this is another presentation that Chaanakya brought in the people. They went over it, and it was like very illuminating in terms of again, market segment, how big, but as in how it would help people, fantastic.
Dr. Patel, would you want to add to that? And tell us which company blew your mind.
Definitely Psionic, and the idea that not only there's a clinical application, but there's a manufacturer's application. I truly believe that most problems that can be solved imagine if people from different sectors came together, what unique solutions we would all come up with. And Psionic seems to embody a lot of that. When it comes to Chaanakya and Varun specifically, what I'm truly impressed by is that the international reach that Varun has, because of all the different conferences that he attends in different parts of the world, allows, I think, really to have a huge sample size, and you're sort of not leaving any stone unturned when deciding where's the new exciting tech coming from. And I think that is also a very unique approach compared to other funds that I've interviewed with in the past. And to me, that is very exciting because he himself puts the boots to the ground physically there. It's not some associate under him that's doing that type of work. And so I think that makes a huge difference. And you can clearly see that when Varun speaks to us personally, or even through the email, the amount of detail that is included, you can sense that it's almost as if I was there at the conference myself. So, which I think is great as an LP to feel.
And so coming back to Varun again, I want to, since I started at Chaanakya Capital, he's been saying that neurotech is not a vertical, but it's a horizontal. And can you explain what that means, and why is this crucial for LPs, for everyone?
This I think came from the early iterations of the fund thesis, right? So when we started, talking to folks, hey, Tarpan, we are an early stage neurotech fund which invests in US-based companies focused on neurotech. So, for Tarpan, even though he's a lot more involved in the medical field, he still wanted some clarity on what do I mean by neurotech. And then there are engineers, non-medical, basically engineers, again, Roger, a couple of other folks as well, my friends, who have the technological expertise. So it's not like they didn't know what's going on, or they could not put these two terms together. But it still helped to give examples. So then, and for those folks who were already in the space, so founders who were already in the neurotech space, they also needed confirmation of if I mean the same thing or not. And so, or am I focused only on certain applications? So like some funds are focused only on Alzheimer's, for example. Some funds are focused only on digital mental health, right? And so on. And so what are we? So I wanted to be able to express that quickly. And so I wanted to say not vertical, but horizontal. So that kind of, first of all, would give you a visual in your head, anybody's head. When I say horizontal applications, so they can imagine a wide range of applications. So that's what I wanted to convey first. And true to that, neuroscience-based technology, foundational products is something that we invest in without necessarily being focused on only one indication. So like I said, not only Alzheimer's, not only this, not only BCI. BCI seems to be doing the rounds in terms of neurotech. So they often go synonymous, right? Oh, neurotech, oh, BCI. But we're trying to tell the world, well, yes, sure, it is glamorous, great, but there is what may still be unglamorous, but still is essential and still is unsolved, to tap into the body's nervous system to solve problems that have, in a different way, not done before. And so how do we indicate all of that? So that's what we said is horizontal application. So you could even have, for example, and I think there's another term for it, bioelectronics, right? So when you look at neuromodulation and neurostimulation, to tap into, like, let's say, vagus nerve, or to tap into the nerves in the heart, for example, to reduce the risk of heart failure, we would be interested in it, because we are not saying, oh, only brain, mental health. No, 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 no. And in fact, we don't even like this kind of like, oh, brain or not, or something else. No, the entire body command control center is here, yes, but then tap into it, sort of like a wiretap anywhere, and be able to infuse information, extract information, treat, and so on and so forth. That's why we say it's horizontal from our point of view. And that includes, by the way, we talked about psionic. It includes psionic too. It's neurotech. It's trained on first-class human data, the muscular signals, the nervous signals. It's trained on that, but it has applications elsewhere too, even robotics, right? And so therefore they are at a good trisection, essentially, of AI, BCI, and neuroprosthetics. So that is like the best example we can say. That's how we want to look at horizontal applications. That's what I mean by horizontal.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really interesting because, yeah, like how you mentioned that people from, like, LPs from different backgrounds would all sort of be able to relate to it. And I want to know how that applies to you, Roger and Dr. Patel. Like, do you feel that you are also neurotechnologists in a way, and that what you know actually you can bring to portfolio companies in terms of adding value?
Actually, I'll jump in for Roger. I think I don't want him short selling himself, because I know a tell, right? He's about to, but no, by the way, he has talked about the fund, and he's actually sent me a couple of companies to look at, right? So before even his starting, I'm going to say yes, Roger knows what. Roger is a neurotechnologist, but go ahead, Roger.
I wasn't going to say I was. That's the thing. I coming in from the various fields I've worked in and studied, but when I started this, I started LP at Chaanakya. I started going to various either medical AI conferences. Started talking to people in the space. Had talked about, like, I'm coming from this from a technological point of view of going, well, I understand software and systems to whatever degree I have. Please tell me more, and got educated at these either conferences or meetups that I've started attending. Found some interesting stuff that was in the quote unquote neurotech space. Sent them Varun's way. Have some more, actually. I should get those contacts over to you. but it's been something where in the process of being an LP in here, I've started at least educating myself on what a neurotech or medical field is, at least from perspective of a neophyte like myself.
And Dr. Patel?
The beauty of neurotech itself is that there's so many vast applications and intricacies of obviously the central nervous system, and especially in the current era that we're in, and how much importance that we place on mental health, behavioral health, compared to the prior decades leading up to. I think it's a really exciting time, and it's kind of you can take any application of any device or software, and you can almost instantaneously find 3 other applications on top of what the founder may already have thought of. And there might be unique reasons why they only stuck to one, or maybe this is this is going to be step 1, then there'll be a step 2, or diversification of applications later. But I think that's the uniqueness of neurotech itself. And I think anyone from any background can digest it and see how it can really transform human lives at scale. Because almost everyone knows someone who's dealing with something. So.
Yeah. So on that note, actually, I want to ask you like a more forward-looking question, which is, how do you see neurotech transforming the clinical field maybe in the next 5 to 10 years? And what are you most excited about? Which technologies or which problem spaces are you most excited about?
When I look at it from a lens of cardiology, I think neuromodulation is huge, right? In the pain application, many devices have come out to modulate how we perceive pain, and that's really improved people's functional lives. And so imagine modulating all types of nerves throughout the body that can help with all sorts of different types of functions, not only with pain, right? Whether it's breathing or the heart beating, robustly, versus maybe even memory. So I think that's going to be one of the most exciting things. In a lot of the movement disorders that we have, such as Parkinson's, I think we have long ways to go, and we can make larger strides, because a larger and larger part of the population is going to be dealing with these movement disorders even more, especially the way we're aging in the United States. The diseases of old age are showing up at a larger prevalence because we are living a little bit longer now these days. And so I think there's going to be a huge need for that as well. And then the other part is that to me is just exciting itself, is just the idea of using AI, right? We've seen so many applications, and we all think AI may replace doctors and all sorts of workers, but from an optimistic, symbiotic view of AI, I truly believe AI can really help people function better in their daily lives. And it could be mental health, right? I mean, just AI applications where, imagine it doesn't have to be a physical therapist in front of you, and it's a application that can help you figure out yourself better, right? And so I think AI is going to really help solve a lot of problems for people in the neurotech space going forward.
Mm-hmm. And so my question to Roger also now, sort of futuristic, but I want to combine what we heard about Roblox and like what I read about Roblox, which is that it's one of the largest human behavior data sets in the world. And so how do you envision neurotechnology changing the way like humans behave in both real and virtual worlds?
Oh, geez. Not sure I'm going to be able to relate that. Most of my work at Roblox is in making the stuff dependable and work, as opposed to the actual behavioral parts.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my behavioral analysis of it is watching my daughter play the game. Uh,
I think there is a case where Joanna, the fund advisor, um, was attracted to this idea to the point of Roblox, right? Is we all make a lot of decisions every given moment, every given minute, right? It is going to be a longer stretch to get to how it relates to Roblox in terms of user behavior, but the fact remains, where's the behavior coming from? From I guess from our nervous system. I come to think of it at the circuit level. So we going back to that final frontier. I don't think we have learned enough about how the brain works to be able to say, hey, here's a tell if maybe when Roger is blinking a couple of times while responding, maybe he's about to do something really bad, even if I may not have known Roger, right? So if I know Roger, saying that is great. Who anybody can do it, right? But for somebody who doesn't, that may be something that is a useful technology to build. Now, right? That kind of analytics and then prediction, predictability, and so on. And then eventually, I know from having worked in that specific team at Roblox, which is user safety, user behavior, there's a lot of abusive behavior on online platforms, right? And so you want to make sure, first of all, that's minimized. And then there will be still bad actors. You want to get ahead of the game. So all of these, if you actually abstract out the functions, the electric level of where the circuits are firing in the brain and in the body to something beyond and layers of abstraction later, we may be able to tie those up together and get some fantastic insights. Other than that, a connection that I've been hoping to make at some point is something like Psionic lending itself to metaverse, right? AR, VR. So you have those things, and perhaps your next space mission or your next oil cleanup in the oceans doesn't have to be humans risking their lives, but humans sitting work from home in front of their computer and actually manipulating in front of the I guess a transceiver to say, okay, well now I've held on to this bucket here. I'm scooping out oil, throwing it out, something like that, right? That would be where I would really like for the connection to be made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we already have some of that, I guess, in robotic surgery. I mean, it's not the same as being in a mine, but yeah, like, you can remotely control like what you want to do and minimally invasive surgeries and things like that.
But also one thing, by the way, I'm very curious to hear your own thoughts, Lou. I mean, you are PhD neuroscience and you are a researcher in this field. So you definitely would have things to say from your vantage point. So, I'm curious to hear on any of these topics we talked about too.
Yeah, well, so I think we're collecting more and more data, at least like in animal models, like where I've mostly spent my time. We want to record from more and more neurons, and we want to collect all the data. And then we think, okay, more is better, but we still can't predict a lot of stuff until the readout is very clean, or until like there's this worm that people record from, like Caenorhabditis elegans. It has, I think, 900 something neurons, and we know from birth till like adulthood, we know, okay, this neuron's going to do this and this neuron's going to do that. We know everything. We can record all the neurons at the same time, but we still can't predict behavior. So I think behavior is kind of that like frontier that needs to, like, so maybe looking at it both from like a game perspective, like maybe that's in a virtual world versus in the real world, how people behave. Like maybe games will give us insights. But yeah, I don't like, definitely in the field that I've been most familiar with, like so far we're collecting more and more information, but again, like unless you have a simple readout, it's very, very difficult to like come to a conclusion. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess for some final remarks, so what insights and guidance would you share to the general public and to aspiring investors in Chaanakya Capital?
Yeah, we are very passionate. We are going from strength to strength, even with this being our first gig as a formal venture capital firm. we already have been lining up subject matter experts and collaborators to work on bigger projects, which could impact our current portfolio as much as impact the way we bring in more companies into our portfolio. So we are on to really, really inspirational things. And we want to back founders building these kind of impactful technologies, making it available, especially to those who can not afford it. And that is the true value of developing technology. And of course, along the way, we'll make money as investors, as VCs, as founders, and that's what we want to hope to marry the mission and the returns. And so, if you are working in the neurotech space, as I described, it seems focused when you look at it as a vertical, but for us, it's the horizontal applications. Tell us some interesting applications. Perhaps you're working on reducing inflammation systemically using neuromodulation, perhaps, right? And show us that it is working, at least some early data. We'll be excited. And similarly, like BCI, advancing the cause. And we're not looking at only, it has to be an implant or electrode. No, if you're building a platform that aggregates data sets and makes the entire data easy to use to build other applications, so abstraction layer, sure, go for it. We have the technology expertise to be able to back those kind of companies. And look at us as your supporters, and this is again to the founders, right? Look at us. We have the likes of Dr. Tarpan Patel, we have the likes of Roger Hagen, a bunch of other investors and advisors who can be your allies, roll up sleeves and please, come help you ideate on things, or make connections as needed. For those of you who are looking to invest, and it can be from any background, somebody who has traditionally only invested in real estate and would like to venture into venture capital, pun totally intended, take a chance on this one, something like this. You want to do it with something, with an area where it's a huge impact, but it's also something that is not commonly done. You don't want to do it with like yet another AI SaaS kind of a VC, maybe, right? Maybe try something else. And so therefore, I think we are at that good point where we can put to good use the money that is invested. And we go at it with the best of our efforts, the best of education, and we'll make that impact. So to anyone who is thinking, is VC for me, take a smaller bet. We often take like amounts surprising to even angel investors. They say, that's like angel investing. Yeah. Except that we can build a good diversified portfolio. So yeah, those two things, founders, investors, and of course, if you're a subject matter expert, come talk to us, tell us what's latest in the field, and we want to chat about the future of humanity.
That's amazing. Thank you, Varun, Roger, and Dr. Patel, and thank you all for joining us to see Chaanakya Capital's journey. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Thank you.